Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Andrew Kastor. Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Quentin. Thanks a lot for having me, man. I'm really excited to be on here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm excited to chop it up with you. You're just a couple weeks, less than a couple weeks out from North American, so we're gonna get into all that talk. But first of all, I would love to know who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time.
So one of my all-time favorites is definitely Kevin Levrone. I live in Maryland here, so he's of course the Maryland Muscle Machine, the original Maryland Muscle Machine. So Kevin's always one of my favorites, and then Jay Cutler. I'm fortunate enough to be um, friends with him. I've known him since 2017, so Jay's always been one of my favorites, and a mentor and a friend as well. And then Phil Heath. So Phil, when I got into bodybuilding, was just crowned Mr. Olympia. So I would say my top three are Phil, Jay, and Kevin.
Excellent. Now, I kind of sometimes like to ask some of my guests, do you have any guys like currently competing that you look up to them or admire their physiques or just respect their work ethic?
Yeah, I find myself a creature of the past a little bit. Still watching a lot of the guys that were doing it when I first got into it. Like I said, those three I just listed, Evan Centopani, guys like that. Currently, I do watch Nick Walker a little bit. I've become a fan of him. I think it's hard not to like him, based on what he's been able to accomplish this past year. So definitely Nick is solid. And oh gosh, I'm really a fan of everybody, man. I'm such a fan of bodybuilding, and I take little things from everybody. But I would say Nick's somebody that I watch a lot. But I would be definitely reminiscent if I did not mention. It's funny, I always forget because he's been so up and down. But Antoine Vaillant is definitely my favorite current pro. Just ever since I started, Antoine Vaillant's like that's my dude. So currently him and Dorian Hamilton, all those HD muscle guys, I've been watching them a lot lately.
Excellent. Love it, man. All right. So let us know, Andrew, at what age you started lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
Started at 14, and I was in my parents' basement. My dad had a couple really old York barbell pieces, and ironically, I lived in York, Pennsylvania, where York barbells, manufactured and all that stuff. And I originally started training for football. I played baseball and football, and I was very good at baseball, but I wanted to get better at football, and I wanted to put on the size needed to be good, at the high school level. And so I started doing push-ups and sit-ups in my parents' basement, and then I joined the gym at 16. But once I had access to all that equipment, like I didn't want to do, just hang cleans and deadlifts and squats anymore. I mean, there was so many different things that caught my interest. And I had a friend and mentor at the time who was a little older than me that played on the baseball team who worked at GNC. He got me a job and showed me who Jay Cutler was, showed me who Phil Heath was. And that was it for me. Once I picked up the magazines, football was not important anymore. And it was all about building my body proportionally and symmetrically. And just, I looked at myself as a canvas, and I wanted to build every body part proportionally.
Excellent, man. All right. So I like to use that last question, Andrew, just to kind of transition into my guest's upbringing, childhood, kind of get into the backstory a little bit, so to speak. So you kind of mentioned Pennsylvania, Maryland. Talk about like where you grew up. Talk about, again, maybe some of the sports that you played. Talk about family dynamics. Just paint that picture a little bit for us of those younger years up to about high school, and then we'll transition from there.
Yeah. So I was born near Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm originally from Ohio, and I was in Ohio from uh, 94. I was born in 94 all the way to 2007. And my childhood was great. I mean, I was an only child. I am an only child. My parents plan on having more until I showed up, and I complicated things a little bit, and they unfortunately weren't able to have any more. So I was one and done. But um, my parents were always very supportive of whatever I did. I mean, I started out with baseball, and I was very good at that. And I ended up getting into football simply because my dad played at the Division II level in college, and he was very good, and I wanted to follow in those footsteps. But they never put any pressure on me to do play football or baseball. They just wanted me to try my best at whatever I did, and but I had a very good childhood. I mean, like, my parents were very loving. They were very caring people. They were very supportive of whatever I did, and we always had a very open line of communication and trust among us. So I was very fortunate to have that growing up, being able to come to them about any issues I had, and things that I wanted to do. And I remember specifically when I decided I wanted to bodybuild, telling them about that and what it entailed. And although they haven't always understood it, they always have supported it. And especially the further I've gotten into it. But from from '07, I moved to Pennsylvania. I was in Pennsylvania all through high school and college. I went to Westchester University in Pennsylvania near Philly, graduated from there in 16, and then started working in Maryland in 16. So that's how I got to Maryland. I started, I was a general manager at a Complete Nutrition, and then I got into gym management and running health clubs for a few years.
So let's I want to focus a little bit kind of like on high school. So when you were in high school, Andrew, did you have any thoughts about kind of what you wanted to do career wise, or what you wanted to do when you kind of quote unquote grew up? If so, what were you thinking at that age, kind of in the high school teenage age range?
Yeah, so it's funny. I really didn't know what I wanted to do for. I mean, all through middle school and through half of high school, I was very clueless on what I wanted to do. And bodybuilding was the one thing. Once I started picking up weights, that was the one thing that really kind of woke me up and made me realize that the possibilities, were endless when it comes to that. The doors that open in our industry, and there's just endless possibilities in the fitness industry. You can do so much. There's so many different streams of revenue and different businesses that you can get into. And it's the one thing that's never going to go away. There's never going to be a day where people don't want to look and feel better. And I remember in high school when I started to go to the gym after school and started to get into a routine and started seeing progress. I feel like when you're a kid, at least when I was a kid, all I ever wanted to do was fit in, right? If the popular kids were wearing Abercrombie and Fitch jeans, I wanted to wear those jeans. Or if this was going on, then I wanted to be a part of it. And when I started training, I was the only bodybuilder at my school. I was the only person talking about getting huge at my school. I was the only person that was obsessed with that idea, and it differentiated me. And it kind of led me down a path to embrace being different, and realizing it's okay to be different. It's okay to do your own thing. And I really I loved that, man. I loved being the person that, was different. And that's really when I realized, okay, I want to do this as a career. And I knew that it's very hard to make money at solely competing. So that's where I started to think, okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a degree in business management, and I'm gonna try to do the business of bodybuilding, as they call it. How can I monetize this sport? Because you never really know when you're that young. Like, I knew I had good genetics, and I knew I could be good, but you never knew how good. Like, I didn't plan on being Mr. Olympia. I knew I could be good enough to be able to make a name for myself, brand myself, and then monetize it.
Now, before we move on to kind of college and post high school, were there any like adults, coaches, teachers? It sounds like your parents were pretty awesome, but outside of your parents, were there any other adults that really had a positive impact on your childhood, or was it mostly your parents?
Oh, definitely my parents as a child, for the most part. I hate to say this, but a lot of the coaches that I had in high school, I didn't really get along with, and I didn't really respect or look up to, simply because I didn't feel like that was reciprocated to me. I felt like a lot of the coaches I had growing up were trying to live vicariously through the students and the athletes because they never achieved what they wanted to. I know that sounds really mean, but I didn't feel like that genuine, you know, interest in me. And so that's why a lot of times I didn't really click with those people. You know, I felt like they weren't fulfilled in their own journey, so they decided to coach, and they tried to just, like I said, live a little bit vicariously through us. It wasn't till I would say college where I really started, you know, to find some other mentors besides my parents. I don't know if that's too far ahead or if that's okay to go into.
Yeah, why don't you just transition to that? That's absolutely fine,
Yeah,
Andrew.
yeah. So I mean, the number one person for sure was I was introduced to a guy named George Beck in 2016 through a mutual friend that we had who went to my gym. And George has always been, anybody that knows me, he's always been, you know, a mentor, a friend, you know, somebody that uh, I, you know, there's very few people in this world I feel like that have your best interest at all times, you know, and they don't always tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. And that's George. You know, he's always been somebody that has told me what I need to hear, whether I'm right or I'm wrong. And so he's had a huge impact. You know, this industry is crazy, man. There's a lot of people that, you know, are not loyal, that might stab you in the back. And George is not one of them. He's always been a very, very good friend and mentor. And he's the one that, you know, put me in touch with Jay Cutler and, you know, a lot of people. You know, I've been able to meet a lot of people through him, and you know, it's because he cares. So he's definitely somebody that has had an impact since I started competing, for sure. Um, you know, like I said, along with my parents, and um, you know, you meet a lot of people along the way, but it's funny, you know, that there's not very many that stick through the whole process.
Now, I want to ask you, what do you feel like when you kind of started lifting weights at 14 years old, joined the gym at 16, and then you kind of started to just, you know, like figure out bodybuilding a little bit, be exposed to actual bodybuilding. What do you feel like, Andrew, kind of pulled you into bodybuilding? You mentioned like, you know, you were the only bodybuilder in your school, so it's kind of like being different. Is there anything outside of that that you feel like just really like attracted you as a young person, as a young man to, you know, the endeavor of bodybuilding? You know, that's it's a journey, it's an experience, it's a process, it's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
What really pulled you in and has kept you on the course of being a bodybuilder?
Well, there's two things. I think the original thing I remember when I was in eighth grade. You know, I was sitting at a lunch table with a couple. It was like four or five girls, and I was dating one of them. And at the time, I wasn't working out at all. You know, and I remember they were talking about one of my friends who had abs, and just going on and on about, oh my gosh, you know, abs and this and that. And it's like, you know, I feel like as a young man, I heard a lot of those conversations, and you think in your head, you think that stuff's important. You know, you think that, oh, well, if I get muscles, that's going to solve all my problems, man. You know, I'm going to get girls, and no one's going to mess with me. And, you know, I'm going to do this and that. And so I feel like originally it was kind of like one of those things where, okay, I want to get better at football. I got to be bigger. I want more attention from females. I got to look better. I got to take care of myself, you know? And so you start to dabble in the gym a little bit. And, but that was a very short-lived incentive. The main incentive was the progress. You know, like I was very good at baseball. In the high school team, I was batting like 450. You know, I was batting cleanup 450. I led the team in every hitting category on the junior varsity level. However, you know, I read a lot of books, and I read Derek Jeter's book. I read Josh Hamilton's book, Alex Rodriguez's book. These guys were all hitting like 650 in high school. You know what I mean? Like they were just better. So it's like, okay, I don't know how far I can take this, but with bodybuilding, you know, I joined the gym, and within 6 months, I was one of the biggest dudes in there. You know, which wasn't saying much. It wasn't a big gym, but it was like, okay, wow, like I'm kind of good at this, you know. And then you meet people, you know, you have the old heads in your gym that, you know, were around in the 80s, 90s, and they see you and they say, man, you know, you got some potential. And then you meet, you know, guys that compete, and they tell you have potential. And it was like, I was always being told that I had potential. And it was like, that was what made me really say, okay, gosh, I stick with this. Like, not only do I love it, I love the way I look, I love the way I feel working out. It's making me feel better about myself. It's helping me come into my own as a man, but maybe I could be good at this. And that was what appealed to me. I was like, man, like, okay, I'm not going to be that good at football. I wasn't really good at football. I'm good, but I'm not good enough at baseball. Maybe I can be good enough at this. And that's what really propelled me even further. Like, it just motivated me. Let's see how far I can take this, because the people that were telling me that I had potential were people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, I love that. That definitely makes sense. Now, before we fully dive into all things bodybuilding, I want to touch on college. You mentioned going to college. So what was college like for you? What did you study? And then I just want to kind of dig in a little bit more about, working at Complete Nutrition, getting into gym management. So I want to touch on college and then and kind of like business, because I think you kind of understood at a pretty young age that, hey, I have to do something to support this bodybuilding thing. And this is something that I want, everybody to kind of listen or watch and hear, is like, hey, not everybody's going to be the most gifted. Not everybody's going to be Phil Heath and be able to win, their pro card quickly and start making money. Times are a lot different than the 90s and 2000s where you get the contract. So I just want you to kind of talk about how you've been able to make a living to support bodybuilding. So talk about college. How was that? And then talk a little bit more about the nutrition and gym management and kind of just making that money to live off to compete.
Yeah. So in college, it's funny. Like I said, I majored in business management, and my original plan, which I'm sure a lot of guys have this plan, is, man, I want to have my own gym. I want to open my own gym. So I remember one of my main goals in college was to network, is meet as many people as I can that are doing what I want to do. And I remember specifically my sophomore year, I there's a gym near Philadelphia. It's called Iron Sport Gym. Steve Pulcinella owns it. Pretty well known gym. A lot of WWE guys, strongmen, powerlifters venture through there. So Steve's got a pretty good reputation. But I remember I called Steve and I interviewed him about owning his private gym. A hardcore gym is what I wanted to own. And I remember, we talked on the phone for about an hour, and I wrote like a 10-page paper on the conversation. And he was very transparent and like, dude, like, don't do this if you want to make money. He goes, if you want to own a gym, he goes, be prepared. You're going to be going a long time without taking a salary. You're going to be here all the time, and I just remember he was so just transparent about the nature of the business. I was like, okay, and fast forward a year later, I trained at a gym, a very small gym in a warehouse called Ignite Performance. And a guy named Brian Chamberlain owned that gym. He was a bodybuilder in the early 2000s. This was before the 212 division. He competed in the open, but he was like kind of like a guy like Lee Priest. He's like about he's probably 5'4", but great physique. And he owned this little private gym, and it was the same thing. Like, he personally trained out of that gym. So it's kind of like, okay, I know running my own gym might not work, but okay, this guy's doing something different. Now he has a gym, but he trains clients out of it. So then it kind of opened up my eyes to like, okay, like, maybe it's not a matter of owning a gym. Maybe it's just a matter of having a spot and training people, and that's where he made his money. It was like the memberships just kind of kept the lights on, but the profit came from the personal training clients. And so that got me thinking as well. But I knew at that point, like, okay, I don't know if I really want to own a gym. I think maybe let's just think about. So I started experimenting with the idea of training people, writing diets and stuff like that. But I'll tell you this, I have so much respect for the industry that I was hesitant to do that in college because I just didn't feel like I was ready. I didn't do my first show till 2015, which was the year before I graduated. So I was like, man, like, who the heck am I to take someone's money and write a plan for them or train them? I feel like I'm still coming into my own, but I was still thirsty for knowledge. So, like I said, Brian, Steve, I spent a lot of time with them learning about the nature of the business. When I graduated and got hired as a general manager at Complete Nutrition, that was cool because I was 21 years old. It looked great on my resume, and I was basically running a business. The owner lived 3 hours away, so it was just me. Hiring people, training people. One thing about me is I was always very gifted at sales. And one thing that I learned, from a young age, and I believe my dad instilled this in me, is people do business with people they like and they trust. If somebody likes you and they trust you, they're going to do business with you. And I took that wherever I went. So if I'm selling supplements, and people trusted me, I knew they'd buy from me. And I would always be genuine in telling people what worked and what didn't. So I ventured into supplement sales, was very good at that. However, it's the most saturated, part of our industry. Is everybody's got a supplement company, man. Everybody's got a line. Everybody's pumping something in your face. So, I dabbled in that for a little bit. And from there, I went to 24-hour fitness, and I got a job as a sales manager. So I was a manager at this, 24-hour fitness. They have these clubs called super sport clubs, and they're 60, 70,000 square foot, huge health clubs, pool, steam room, sauna, basketball court, hot tub, tons of weights, massive 24 hours a day, open. And that really, really expanded my knowledge in business management and people skills and networking, because now not only am I selling supplements, I'm selling gym memberships, I'm selling personal training. And I'm also, training people on how to do that. So I was quickly promoted to general manager with that company, and it was like about a year they promoted me to the general manager position. So now I'm 24 years old. I'm managing 20 to 30 people. I'm hiring, firing trainers. So I just, all this was, on one end it sucked because it was such a big job for me at the age. It took me away from bodybuilding, but it gave me the knowledge that I needed to do what I'm doing now. Because ironically, this year I was at a different health club around the Baltimore area called Merit, and I quit there and I started my own personal training business. So, I actually got asked this the other day by a guy on Instagram. He's like, man, like, how did you start off, with training, and how did you venture off into your own, brand? And it's like, it's just an accumulation of things. I figure out, sometimes you have to figure out like what you don't want to do in order to find what you do want to do. And so how I make money is I have Cast Iron Enterprises. I have my own personal training, business, and I do in-person training, online training, posing, coaching. I have a supplement sponsor. I just started doing appearances this year locally, and I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do, man. I'm living the business of bodybuilding and working for myself.
Very cool, man. I love it. Now let's start transitioning actually into bodybuilding, into competing. So
Yeah.
you said your first show was 2015. Now, you said that, as you were working at the complete nutrition at 24-hour fitness and things like that, you kind of had to put bodybuilding on the back burner, so to speak. So what was kind of the spark, or what was the open door for you to really start focusing on bodybuilding for yourself? And then why don't you take that and walk us into that first competition in 2015?
Yeah. So in college, I remember, and a lot of guys struggle with this, like, I feel like a lot of guys never feel like they're ready. You talk to a lot of people who want to do their first show, and you say, hey, well, you thinking about doing a show? Yeah, I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready. And I had a friend who went to my gym in Pennsylvania, and Yash Friedman was his name, and is his name. And he was a competitor at the time. And I remember I told him that once, and he's like, dude, you're never going to feel ready. Just get up there and do it. So I found a coach in Pennsylvania, in Westchester, where I was going to school. Brian, the guy that owned that Ignite gym, who was a pro. I remember specifically, like I said, I'm a little different, man. I have a lot of respect for this industry, and I just really, I'm very, I'm very humble in wanting to get better. And I'm not one of these guys that will ever go around and thinks that I'm better than I am. I think I'm very, very self-aware. And I remember um, I was 20 years old. I was working out at that gym one day, and I went into his office. I said, hey, man, this was November of 2014. And I said, look, I'm thinking about doing a show next year. And I respect your opinion. You've been doing this a long time. Like, is there any way you could look at me and just tell me if I'm any good, man? Like, if you tell me I suck, I'm still going to try. I'm still going to try, but I just want to know what you think. So went into the back office, took my clothes off, and I just remember being so nervous, like I was like shaking, just because I just like, what this guy's gonna say, and he basically just, looked at me, didn't say much, and he's like, dude, like, here's what I want you to do. I want you to gain 20 pounds from November to March, come back and see me, and we're gonna do a show in August. And I said, okay, 20 pounds. He goes, yeah, I don't care what the hell you do, I don't care what you eat, just get out of here, go to Chipotle, and just gain 20 pounds and come see me. He didn't have to tell me that twice. I gained 20 pounds in about a month, and I came back, and I was like, I was a little thick, and I just, he's like, you did exactly what I told you to do. Let's do it. So that was really cool. That was a 20-week prep. I had a coach there in person. I saw him every day, every week we posed, and I ended up going into that show and winning the open heavyweight division. And I almost won the overall of the show. I got beat by a guy who was in his 40s. He just had that muscle maturity. Not to be a jerk, but the guy's structure and shape was just terrible. But he just was very conditioned. It was like hard to deny him the victory. Someone's that in shape. It's like, so, but that show kind of told me everything I needed to know. Okay, I have the tools to kind of to keep going from here, and I didn't do the novice division. I just went straight to the open with, everybody. And that was, the first show. And from there, I competed the next year in 2016, and I did the same thing. I won 2 local shows. I won my class in both of them, but I missed the overall again. And the following year in 2017, I did win an overall at a local show. I won the super heavyweight and overall at the Blue Ridge Classic, but there wasn't very many people there. So it was like, I hit a sticking point where it's like, okay, I'm winning these local shows, right? But how do I level up to get to the national level? You know what I mean? I could walk into any local show and everybody's going to be like, oh man, you look great. But national level, it's a whole different ballgame. So the ironic part is, I had that realization, but then my career outside of bodybuilding picked up. I got promoted with 24-hour fitness. All of a sudden, here I am, 24 years old, running a club, and I've got employees, and I've got a gym that is open 24 hours a day, meaning I'm never off the clock. If your overnight employee doesn't show up, you're dealing with it. If your trainer doesn't show up, you're dealing with it. And so I was raised, to take a lot of pride in my work and what I do. And it was really hard for me to say no to people. And it was really hard for me to say no to my boss. And it was really hard for me to bodybuild. So, here I am, I find myself like, okay, I'm at a crossroads. I want to go to the national level, but I'm eating 3-4 times a day. Half the time it's junk. I'm training 4 times a week like a wimp. So I made the decision in 2020 to resign from my job. I was planning on resigning basically. And then COVID happened. So it was like this weird timing of like, wow, like, okay, this is terrible. This sucks. But like, now what? You know what I mean? So now 24-hour fitness went bankrupt. My club's all closed. So now I don't have a job. The gyms are all closed too. So it was kind of like a weird time for me because I'm like, now what do I do? This is the time I was planning on quitting my job to focus solely on bodybuilding. But now all the gyms are closed. That's like my whole resume is like gym management. So through the lockout, what I did was, and my girlfriend at the time didn't really appreciate this. We're not together anymore, so I guess it doesn't matter. But I have an uncle in Ohio who owns 23 Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. So shout out to Steve Grube and Mitchell, Matthias, Marcus Max, all you guys, Cade. They called me and they said, hey, the gyms are all closed, but their dad built a training facility in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, like the most northern part of Ohio, Defiance. So it was like Rocky IV, man. I went out there and I trained through the pandemic in this private gym through all of 2020. And I kept training through this whole thing. And 2021 rolls around and, I put the muscle on that I needed to compete at the national level. And it was a weird time because financially I struggled significantly. I mean, I hate to admit this, but I collected unemployment just based on my club, closed. And it's like, I wasn't going to do it. And then I had about 4 or 5 friends say, why the hell wouldn't you do it? Like, this isn't your fault. This happened. Like, collect on the money. So I collected on the unemployment. I started, coaching people a little bit on the side. I was also with Color Nutrition, which helped me a little bit. Jay always took care of me with supplements, shirts, um, you know, some financial help here and there, not a whole lot, but so I was able to persevere, through that storm. And then did the junior nationals last year, got 3rd place there, and went into North Americans. But unfortunately, North Americans last year, man, problem is I dieted from January to June for the junior nationals, and I got 3rd, and it was a big showing for me because I could have won that show. My tan was terrible, and I wasn't quite as tight as I needed to be, but I knew I was okay. I can hang with these guys. But from June to September, it was only 10 weeks. I got sick twice, man. I got a sinus infection for 2 weeks. I got COVID for 2 weeks. So I ended up getting 7th place North Americans, which I'm not 7th. It just was one of those things. But I knew, like, last year gave me, a clear, mind and of knowing that I can stand with these guys.
All right. So some things I want to discuss here now. How has when you kind of first started really focusing on bodybuilding and competing, what was your training like then? And has your training evolved over time, or is it pretty similar? And how has it evolved, or what is your training style kind of currently?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. I train completely different than how I started. And I think everybody goes through this curve a little bit, but I'm hoping I can kind of shed some light on at least one person listening to this. So when I first started training, obviously, like everybody else, it was all about the weight. How much weight do you put on the bar? And who's watching me move this weight? It doesn't matter about the form. It's just about the weight. I just want to get stronger. I just want to bench 225, as many times as possible. I just want to do this and that. So immediately when I started training, I did notice that I always paid a lot of attention to Jay Cutler's leg training, Ben Pekulski's leg training. And that's how I based my leg training, high volume, because my legs weren't very strong. But the volume, they responded like crazy. So I was like, okay, I went from training like an idiot and going too heavy to lightening up the weight, using more volume. My legs blew up, but nothing else did. So it was kind of weird. Like, it took me a long time to learn this, as dumb as this may sound, but I have very severe scoliosis. So when I was 21, I got an injury about 3 weeks out from that first show that I did doing a leg press. I went to a chiropractor and he's like, dude, you're crooked. You have a very severe curvature of the spine right in the middle. And from there, like, a lot changed because I had always been big on free weights and, T-bar rows and bench press and, all this free weight stuff that you hear about, like the free weights build muscle and they build density and all this stuff. And I don't know if I agree with that now, man. I think that, like, I think there's a foundational aspect of absolutely you need to learn how to train correctly with free weights and build those, stabilize our muscles and that mind muscle connection. But the technology's advanced so much. I mean, it's crazy. I train at Exile Fitness here in Rosedale, Maryland, one of the best gyms in the country. And everything I do now is like, for example, back training. 90% of my back training is chest assisted because at the end of the day, like, I want to remove as many variables as possible. If I'm trying to isolate my back and my chest isn't assisted, then I have to worry about keeping my chest still while I'm trying to contract my back, drive my elbows back. So my training has advanced significantly to fit me. And it's kind of funny because I know Hunter Labrada received some slack about this recently about the way he trains and, oh, well, you got to do this and that. It's like, I think it's to each their own. I think that for me, I found what works. Right now I focus on time under tension. I focus on isolation, and I don't care how much weight's on the bar. I care about the tension that's being put on the muscle I'm trying to isolate. And, prime example is like I said, I love Kevin Levrone, man. Kevin's the man. Kevin built his chest on heavy bench press and heavy incline bench press, doing sets of 5 reps. I tried that. Don't work. Doesn't work for me. Okay. Like, so I use a lot more machines now and stuff than I did back in the day. And my physique's going to speak for itself in 11 days when I get up there. Cause I was told many, many times over the years, like, you're not going to be able to build a back with that scoliosis. You can't do heavy barbell rows. You can't do heavy, you can't do heavy deadlifts, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And um, it's funny because I posed with Victor Martinez and John De La Rosa last year alone. And those guys both told me, they were like, dude, you look great. Your back sucks, but it's okay. Use machines. Don't be afraid to use the machines. And I started doing more of that, and like, it blew up. So yeah, my training's changed a lot since I've gotten older and a little smarter.
What's been your current training split over the last year or over this prep?
So I do, I operate off of, I don't do like a Monday, Tuesday type thing. I do kind of like a day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. So day 1's always back. My back's always been my weakest. So I start the week off with a back day, typically a lat focused back day. From there, the second day I usually do a shoulder day. The third day is usually a day off. Fourth day I will do a chest and back superset day. And I started doing this last year. And I always kind of thought, back in the 70s, Arnold was big on training chest and back. And I always thought, well, if you're training chest and back together, you're not doing it hard enough. But I tell you what, anybody watching this that wants to bring up their back or their chest, train them together and superset them. I train my upper back with my chest and I superset back and forth. So I can't believe the contraction, that opposite muscle contraction that you get, and the blood flow that shoots into that opposite muscle. Like if you do a set of incline dumbbell presses, for example, and then you go do like a seated cable row with a straight bar and you're pulling to your chest, the amount of blood that shoots into your upper back and that mind muscle connection is insane. And I brought up my chest and my back that way. So after that day off, I do a chest and back day. I will do an arm day and then a leg day. And then a day off again. So it's usually 2 days on, 1 day off, and then 3 days on, 1 day off. Now, sometimes I'll sneak a second leg day in there earlier in the week after that shoulder day. But mostly a hamstring dominant day. Like my leg days right now are mostly hamstring focused, just because my quads I'm blessed with the quads that I have. I did in college, I squat till my freaking I didn't squat till my nose bled like Jay used to do, but I squatted till I couldn't walk. I mean, we used to do sets with 225 till we couldn't walk. And so I've definitely paid my dues under the squat bar, on the leg press, and under, the bar in the parking lot doing lunges. So my quads are good. So a lot of my leg training is hamstring focused. I still do presses, but it's a wider stance, toes pointed out, that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Okay. Coaching, do you coach yourself or do you have somebody else coach you?
I coach myself. And this is something that, I've worked with 4 coaches. I worked with, like I said, Brian Chamberlain, my first show. I worked with Dusty Hanshaw for a couple shows. Dusty's a good buddy of mine, and Dusty's always been good to me. Nick Trigilli for a short amount of time. I worked with Nick. Nick was always good to me too. He disappeared for a little bit, so I know he's back now with the bodybuilding and BS thing and stuff. But and then I did work with Matt Jansen for a very short time. But I tell you what, I've done 7 shows and I've done better coaching myself than I have with any other coach. And it's one of those things where I'm a coach, so I don't want to contradict my business, but I tell every athlete that I coach, my job is to teach you how to do this yourself so you can learn and you can be a student of the sport, and like learn how to do things yourself. It's kind of like, back in the day, none of these guys had coaches. You know what I mean? Like I was talking to, I know you got Dorian there behind you. Ian Harrison?
Who?
Ian Harrison. You remember him?
I know. I don't think I've heard of his name.
So Ian Harrison was a UK bodybuilder. He competed in the 90s with Kevin, Dorian, all those guys for a short time. He retired by 28, but he was in Maryland promoting the show 2 months ago. And or a month ago, and we were talking about how he used to coach himself and Dorian used to coach himself, and like how like there's this whole like coaching thing that started. And like, listen, I think coaches are really, really good and they're important. And you have that second set of eyes. You have a friend, a mentor, a voice of reason. But I do think it's gotten a little out of control. And I think the cookie cutter plans have gotten a little bit excessive. And I think that, you know, I found myself working with some of these guys and just like looking at what I was paying for. And I'm like, I'm paying this guy $1,500 to tell me to eat chicken and green beans for basically 12 weeks. And then the last week of the show, there's no peak week. It's just basically like, okay, we're going to cut your protein in half. We're going to up your carbs, and then we're going to load you with diazide for 3 days, you know? And, I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to, throw shade, but like, I mean, if like Matt Jansen and I just didn't click, man. I mean, it was one of those things where I think he's very smart. I think that, if you work with him for a long time, I'm sure that I know a lot of people that work with him well. But the week of the show, it was diazide here, diazide there, diazide there, like, cut your water. And it's like, I mean, I turned into a dehydrated baked potato by showtime. It's like, and it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, I've been bodybuilding since 2015. I know for a fact that if I keep my water and I look better, I've kept my water in for 16 weeks. So why would I cut it? Why would I dehydrate the muscle? There's just certain things you learn along the way that you're like, man, like, I know what makes sense. I know what's logical, but I'm listening to somebody else who doesn't really know my body yet. So that's why I made the decision, to just coach myself. And I always have a set of eyes, though. You always have a set of eyes that you can bounce stuff off, because I think that's important. Boston Lloyd was, rest in peace, man. I miss him. That guy was a good dude. A lot of people don't realize that he was a very, very generous, genuine guy. He's somebody I used to send pictures to, and he'd tell me if I was on or if I was off. Jay Cutler's somebody I'll send pictures to. Not this year, last year more so. We talk on the phone, and I posed for him a week out from juniors. This year, Scott Rayner. Scott Rayner was Kevin Levroni's training partner in the '90s, but I always have somebody that keeps an eye on me.
All right, so let's transition and kind of finish up our chat today, Andrew, with where you're at currently. You're 11 days out from NPC North Americans. What was your personal decision in terms of why you wanted to compete at North Americans this year? And then why don't you talk about how this prep has gone? How are you feeling? How much cardio have you been doing? Just kind of give us the details of this prep specifically, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so originally I thought I was going to do the USA Championships this year. And then, like I said, I live in Virginia. I mean, I live in Maryland. The USA's is in Vegas. Show was going to cost me about $5,000, and I was like, why would I spend $5,000 going to Vegas when 4 weeks later I could compete in Pittsburgh and drive 4 hours? So that was the decision there to do North Americans again. I felt like last year that show was really weak, and like the reason that Matt even entertained the idea of working with me is because he wanted to win that show with me. He called me and said, we're going to go into that show and we're going to win. And then I got sick, and then I was kind of like dead to him, and he didn't even care to, deal with me. But so I wanted to go back and get, revenge this year. I wanted to go back healthy, go back on my own terms, and go in there and it's one thing if you get beat, but it's like, if you get beat when you're off or you're coming off COVID, or, you didn't really click well with your coach, it's kind of like you walk away thinking like, man, well, I didn't really get beat. I just was off, So this year I wanted to go back on my terms and be on, and, the preps went really well. I started everything in March. I got up to 300 pounds, in March through April. I was, 300 pounds full blown, and then started dieting in May, and gradually came down, and I've held in the 260s for about the last 10 weeks and just completely recomped, man. And, I've learned my body now I know what I need, when I need it. And as far as food, as far as cardio, cardio right now is, it's been actually about the last 6 weeks or so, it's been 45 minutes to about an hour, in that range. Now, right now, currently, I've added, 2 sessions. So 2 40-minute sessions, or a 40-minute, 30-minute session, depending on the body part I train. Um, Carbs are low. I'm a low carb dieter. I've been doing, I do very low carb days of about 80 grams of carbs a day. And I respond well to those days. However, I feel as though usually every 5-6 days, I'll have a refeed day, and I'll fill up on calories and keep my metabolism rolling, so I can keep getting leaner. I don't have any metabolic stalls or anything like that. But the prep's going great, man. I mean, I feel really good. I had a slight tricep injury about 2 weeks ago with the tendon, but that's feeling better. Feel healthy. Body's responding well.
What's your what are you planning on doing at North Americans this year? Like, what's your number one priority? What's your goal?
First call outs. I think that, and I know you've had a lot of guys I'll be competing with on this show, so it's kind of funny. Hopefully they'll see this, but there is nobody that beat me last year that was a better bodybuilder than me. And like I said, junior nationals, my tan was terrible. I needed to be a little tighter. I think I got outworked at junior nationals. I think Cole Eastfold outworked me a little bit. He was in very, very good shape. He deserved to win. North Americans, it was a weak North Americans. It was a week, and it's like, it just kind of sucked, man. So this year I will be in shape, and I'll be healthy. And it's tough to say. I mean, I'm 28, so there's a few guys that are doing it. They're in their 30s, and they have that grainy muscle maturity, and they've been doing this, a long time. And but they don't have my shape, and they don't have my structure. I got shape, I got structure, and I'm hoping to bring better conditioning this year. And the goal is, first call out. And I think once I stand next to these guys, it's going to be fun. I don't know. We'll see who's got what. I know Cole's going to be in shape. I know John Effer's going to be in great shape. Some other freak show that's doing it, I don't know his name. I know he looks like he's in good condition. Brandon Barrows, the guy who got second at USA's, I'm excited to stand next to him. A lot of good guys. So first call out's the goal. And we'll see what happens from there. We're all standing on the same stage next to each other.
So how far are you wanting to take competitive bodybuilding? Like, how far do you want to take this? When you decide in your mind, okay, Andrew, like, I'm done competing, what do you want to have accomplished within bodybuilding?
I would love to turn professional, and I would love to compete as a professional. Very similar to how the guys in the 90s did it, man. Like I tell my girlfriend now, like, my goal would be to turn pro, and I'd like to compete as a pro like 4 or 5 times a year for a couple of years. Like, those guys used to go on tour, and that's how they built their fan base. You go, like, for example, we had the Vancouver, Tampa, and Chicago pro, like, all last month, right? Or this past month or whatever. Like, if I was a pro, I'd get in shape and I would do all 3 of those. You know what I mean? And that's always been my goal. So right now I have a great local reputation. I have a great local business. Turning pro would take my business, national, and then competing as a pro would take my business international. And that's what I'd want to do. Is I'd want to travel the world and compete and meet people and fans of bodybuilding, because there's so many different countries out there that really respect and appreciate what we do. So that would be my goal. Now, I don't know. I don't want to, I'm not by no means aiming to do this like a Dexter Jackson into my 40s, 50s. Like, I'd like to do it, for a few years. And, like by 35, I think it would be a good time to kind of look at what's next in life if I were able to turn pro. But that's the goal: get the card and compete as a pro, and continue to just establish my brand at the international level.
So business wise, where do you kind of want to take the coaching thing? Is that something you want to continue to do, into your 40s and 50s, or do you have some other business ideas that you would like to pursue at some point?
Yeah. So with the coaching, right now I specifically take a lot of first time competitors. Just because I feel like I'm in a position where I can take guys or girls that want to do their first show and really, really mentor them, take them under my wing, and really be there for them. Like, be extremely accessible. I'm affordable. I'm trustworthy, and I know so many people in this industry. And like, you look at guys like, even Jansen. Like, I don't. Like, I hope I didn't sound negative by any means. Like, I learned a lot of stuff from that in a short amount of time. Like, I'm fortunate enough where Matt Jansen, Jay Cutler, Kevin Levrone, like all these guys like that I've like got a chance to pose for or talk to, like I can regurgitate that knowledge to them. So eventually, yeah, I'd like to get to a point where I can continue to coach people, but hopefully bring on a team of coaches underneath me, and kind of have a not, I don't want to say a pyramid, but like a team of cast iron coaches, and you know what I mean, and we all make sure that we have the same vision, same mindset, the same goal in mind to teach people how to do things the right way, the safe way. This sport's got a little bit crazy lately. It gets a little out of control, and like there is a right way and a wrong way to do things, and I'm hoping to instill the right way to do things in whoever I work with, and give them a good experience and give them a good reason to keep doing this.
Now, what do you feel like, Andrew, like the biggest lesson you've learned from bodybuilding, or what's like something that you feel like, man, if I wasn't a bodybuilder, I may not have learned this, about life or about myself or about other people. Is there something that really sticks out in your mind in terms of what bodybuilding has taught you?
Yeah, definitely. The more you put in, the more you get out of anything in life. I had a very good childhood. I had a very comfortable childhood, and by no means at any point did I ever struggle as a kid. And I was very well taken care of, and it was one of those things where I feel like when I started bodybuilding, it just like it's one of those things, man. You can't fake it. You can go to college and you can cheat on tests. You can be late for work and call somebody and say, "Hey, clock me in." There's ways around the system. There's always ways to beat the system. You can't beat this system. You can't fake training until till you throw up. You can't fake eating 6, 7 meals a day. You can't fake doing an hour cardio a day. You have to put the work in. And it's taught me discipline. It's taught me patience. It's taught me control. Uh, you have to, when you are this size and you are walking around and like you're being looked at by people, you have to be in control of your emotions. It's just taught me discipline in every aspect of my life, and that's what I'm most thankful for. Sometimes I question, why I'm doing this. Is it the most healthy thing? Not just physically based on what we do, but also mentally. Like, you're so obsessed on the outer shell. But then I look at the work ethic that I learned from it, and if you apply half of the work ethic you put into bodybuilding into any other business, you can make 6 figures. And that's what I'm doing with my own business. You just take that energy, take that mindset, put it into anything else, and you're going to be successful.
So we're gonna kind of start wrapping things up here, Andrew. I want to ask you, what's some words of wisdom or pieces of advice that maybe you would like to share with your younger self, or just maybe share with some of the people that are watching or listening to this that are thinking, hey, I kind of want to start getting into bodybuilding, or I want to start competing maybe for the first time. What are some words of wisdom that you can share with those people, or you would have liked to have shared with your younger self?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of things have changed, and I kind of, not to be negative, but I feel like the industry that I once dreamed of being a part of has changed a little bit and no longer exists. And we're on a new wave now, social media and influencers and stuff. But I would say my advice to anybody that wants to compete is put the work in first. I think a lot of people put the cart before the horse, and even at my gym, I see guys, they walk in with these $5,000 cameras and these tripods and these $400 gym outfits, and everything looks cool, right? Except they don't have the physique. focus on the physique first and do this because you want to do it for you. Don't do it for likes. Don't do it for followers. Don't do it because you think you're going to get girls, because you're not. Girls don't care how big your muscles are. Do it for you, and that's the biggest thing I hope somebody takes away from this is like, you got to do this because you really want to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. But and be patient, be patient and realize everything happens for a reason. Everybody's, positive when things are going well, but when they get an injury or when they, get out of a relationship or when adversity happens, like it all goes to hell. The diet goes to hell, the training goes to hell, everything else. So realize that everything happens for a reason. You're going to get tested along the way. You just have to persevere and stay consistent. And the only difference between me and the hundreds of thousands of people I've come across along the way in the gym is I'm still here and I'm still training. And I'm still doing it. I kept going along the way. So keep going.
All right. So last thing here, I want to ask you about recovery, whether that's massage, chiropractic, whatever. Is that something that you think is very important to incorporate into your own regimen? And is that something that you encourage other people in? And what kind of recovery, practitioners do you kind of seek out?
Yeah, it's huge. Massage therapy, I go once a week if I can. I have a great a massage tissue therapist, and I see her once a week. She knows I've been working with her for 2 years. She knows my body very well. She's strong as hell. So I like to do that once a week pre-contest. Off season, you can get away with once every other week or whatever, but like pre-contest once a week, and it's an investment, but your body is your business as a bodybuilder. So take care of it. And then chiropractic, I have a great chiropractor in Pasadena, Maryland, Bartlinski Chiropractic. They not only adjust me, but they have a couple different tables that I use to decompress my lower back because I do get some compression due to my scoliosis. So I incorporate that, as well as, I hate to say it, some dry needling. Dry needling like once a month. Really uncomfortable. I don't like it, but I do think it's important. The only thing that I'm not doing that I'd like to do more of is cupping. I do think cupping is beneficial too. And but those are the main three things: needling, chiropractic, massage, and then in the off season I do ice baths after leg day. Those are huge, and they suck, but ice bath is a game. I know Bumstead's very big on those, and they're the reason they work.
Excellent. All right, Andrew. Before I do a quick outro here, I just want to kind of give you the platform to share any final thoughts, any final words that you have for us. Shout out, sponsors, anything that you want to kind of leave with us. I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'll do a quick outro, and then that'll end our conversation. So go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, I'd like to, my parents have always been my core support system. So I love my mom and my dad very much. And, I haven't always been the best, son with when it comes to bodybuilding. It's such a crazy extreme sport, and there's been times I put them through hell, but I love them both dearly. George Beck is my bodybuilding mentor. Love you, George. My girlfriend Natalie, she's been super supportive and has really helped my mindset this prep. I love her. Exile Fitness, Rosedale, Maryland. If you are in the Maryland area, Exile Fitness, if you gotta stop by and train there. So Bob Lutz, Sheila White have always taken good care of me. They sponsor me, as well as Exile Performance Nutrition. That's a store within Exile. They sell supplements there. My supplement sponsor, Brick Sublet, Seth Sublet, have always taken good care of me as well. Appreciate you. And my good friend Joey Bartlitsky as well. He's always been a good friend of mine. Good friend and big supporter. So those people have, I got a great team. Like I said, my massage therapist, Kate Renner, Bartlitsky Chiropractic, and my man Scott Renner for keeping an eye on me and keeping me away from the cookies.
All right. Well, I just want to say, first of all, good luck here in 11 days, Andrew, at North Americans. Like you said, I've had quite a few of the guys that competed at USA's, and now they're going to be competing at North Americans on the podcast. A lot of great guys. It's going to be, that super heavy class is going to be very competitive, which is always exciting for everybody. And then I also just want to say thank you for coming onto the podcast and sharing kind of your bodybuilding experience, your bodybuilding story with us. It's really appreciated. Okay.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. I've known about your podcast for a while. Like I said, I've seen a lot of my, competition come on. So it was really cool to get that message and be invited on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. All of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so much. If it weren't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. If you guys would just do a couple quick things for me, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We are, I think, about 20 to 25 subscribers out from 1,000. My goal is by the end of this week to be at that 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you have not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That's really important because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes, Castbox, and some of the other major podcast platforms. So if you want to stay current on all the Behind the Muscle podcast episodes, make sure you are subscribed to BTM on YouTube. And then one final quick favor I'd ask, take this episode with Andrew, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Andrew, tag Behind the Muscle so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it. And then quickly here, if you guys want to reach out to Andrew, and I would also encourage you to give him a follow on Instagram. Just scroll down wherever you're watching this, wherever you're listening to this. All of the contacts in terms of Andrew's Instagram and BTM's Instagram is in the show notes. So go give Andrew a follow, encourage him as he's 11 days out, 10 days out as you guys, when this will be released, just encourage him, give him a follow, and just wish him luck for North Americans. That would be super cool. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.